Hi, I'm Trinity Hunt from WHYY Summer Journalists. I'm coming to you from one of the many smoke shops that sell vaporizers in Philadelphia. Today we're covering the causes and effects of e-cigarette use among teens. Electronic cigarettes are handheld devices that simulate the feeling of tobacco smoking. Today, teenagers as young as middle schoolers are getting their hands on these products. Ed is an 18-year-old who vapes.
A lot of people in my family smoke cigarettes, and I've never been a fan of cigarettes, although I have tried them in the past. And the alternative was vaping. It couldn't have been more than 3 years or so. Maybe when I was a freshman in high school, I started using e-cigarettes, or vaping. I mean, when I first got it, I believe it was one of my friends who was actually already 18 who bought it for me. He actually had one himself, and that's how I actually started.
Many people who vape believe that vaping can be used as a healthier alternative to smoking traditional cigarettes. Tony is an employee at a vape shop.
Me personally, my mom got me into vaping when I was 18, you know what I mean? As soon as I turned 18, she took me to the vape shop. It was like, you gotta stop smoking cigarettes. This is gonna be better for you. If you're smoking a pack of cigarettes every day at the age of 17, if your parent wants to buy you a vape because they know you're gonna smoke it anyway, then that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world.
My mindset was it wasn't a cigarette, and it was pretty fun to use at first, and then it just became very soothing after a while, and it became a norm.
Those who use vapes use them for many reasons. For example, to reduce anxiety or as a hobby.
Everyone has their vices, so some people like to just pick it up as a hobby because some of this stuff is highly customizable. It's not all about just nicotine delivery systems. A lot of these are highly customizable, like car parts. So a lot of people just like to tinker with things, the small pieces, the heating elements, and things like that.
When I'm driving, I usually do it a lot because it's something to do. And when I'm very stressed out or have a lot of anxiety, maybe.
In the 50s and 60s, cigarette use in the United States was at its peak. However, traditional cigarette use has steadily declined after the public began to know the health risks.
Doctors in every branch of medicine were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?"
Starting maybe in the 1930 or so, a huge upswing in use in the American population, peaked around 1963. The Surgeon General's report on cigarettes and on smoking, the big report that told everybody, okay, cigarettes cause lung cancer, was 1965. So there was a period of about 20 years when people really were smoking a lot and didn't know that.
But around the early 21st century, e-cigarettes started coming out into the market. People started using them as an alternative to smoking. Now e-cigarettes are seen everywhere, on the streets of Philadelphia and in the bathrooms of schools.
A lot of older people were getting into it first and stuff like that. Now I notice every year more and more younger kids are getting into it.
All the time. If you walk around a Philadelphia street, you see kids vaping all the time. And I hear from teenagers that kids are vaping all the time, including in school.
There are many health issues, and Dr. Cheryl Bettigal helped to clarify.
The nicotine in e-cig products, even ones that may not be labeled as having nicotine, is addictive, and it actually changes the brains of young people. There was actually a study done in 2014 looking at those products. A lot of them have nicotine. Even the ones that say no nicotine have nicotine.
Many people are not clear with what chemicals are in e-cigarettes.
Hundreds and thousands of carcinogens found in cigarettes and tons of ingredients, you know what I mean? In these liquids, there's 5 ingredients at most, you know what I mean? You got propylene glycol, vegetable glycerin, artificial flavorings, and nicotines in different levels.
In fact, there are hundreds of chemicals.
There's still toxins and carcinogens in e-cig vapor, but many fewer than in a traditional cigarette.
One of the main dangers and concerns to teens using e-cigarettes is the addiction that comes with them. After getting the teen smoking rate to its lowest point in decades, health professionals fear that the teen smoking rate will rise again.
I think we're at 7.1% of teenagers smoking regular cigarettes. But in the last couple of years, for the first time, we actually saw an increase in overall youth tobacco use. And that was driven by 2 kinds of products. One are vape products, and the other are cigars and cigarillos, all flavored products. The problem is, particularly with younger people, that there you're not talking about harm reduction because you're not talking about that long-term smoker who can't quit. You're talking about somebody who's relatively new to cigarettes or may never have smoked before. And for them, e-cigs are a path to addiction and to a lifelong smoking habit.
There are occasions where, I have somewhat of a craving to do it,
Companies use flavors and cartoon packaging to target teens to buy vape products.
The marketing has to do with flavorings, fruit, candy, flavors, and wrappers that are meant to appeal to kids. And so when you look at a vape shop, you can see all these bright colors, and the marketing is sort of young and hip and cool.
The marketing on the boxes and things like that, like there are like childish cartoons and things like that, because right now there's no regulation against it. So that's like the one thing I could see like really marketing to kids, you could say, is like some of the childish logos and things like that.
Knowing what's at stake, Dr. Bedigal believes there are only two possible outcomes.
We're kind of at a turning point where one of two things is going to happen. Either we're really going to see that progress really lost, or teens getting smart and telling the big tobacco companies no way.
Right now, electronic cigarettes have become extremely popular, and we need to be wary about what long-term effects they could bring. From WHYY Summer Journalist, I'm Trinity Hunt.